Moving right along with the rest of the show and into our next topic on more of international talk with the NFL. Them obviously growing their global footprint over the last few years. Now traveling to South America for the first time against some more Germany games, some more London games, and some big plans heading into 2025 and afterwards to play games in Spain. Maybe Australia, Italy's been thrown out there. Why not the Middle East if everything is sort of being played over there recently to gain that much more attention on the game of football? A lot of different options for the NFL, but regular season games are one thing. I think fans can really just accept that. They can swallow that pill and just get by with it. Yeah, sure, we're going to have to wake up a few hours earlier than we'd like to watch maybe our favorite team play, but it isn't the Super Bowl, right? It isn't the biggest game, arguably, in sports currently, in the United States at least. Pretty much its own holiday. Everybody tunes into the Super Bowl, even though there is no day off afterwards. That's a separate conversation, though, with the 18-game regular season. But the Super Bowl, is there any chance that London, of all places, could host the Super Bowl in the near future? Well, their mayor, Sadiq Khan, recently revealed last week that he's hoping to try and convince the NFL to try and put a future Super Bowl in their city based on the history and the connections that London has with the NFL and having so many games be played there. We're talking about the Super Bowl here, right? 58 Super Bowls and counting really have been played in the United States, obviously, with more Super Bowls already scheduled through 2028, 2027 at least. So this is an idea that's being floated around now more and more. The international games are going to grow from now that there is five, if my memory serves me right, to about 7 or 8 per year with the new ruling from the NFL owners in December to increase the amount of international games. It is something that is in the works, but like I said, London Mayor Sadiq Khan mentioned it in a statement to The Athletic last week, to which he said specifically in this graphic that I have there, I see on your screen. He said the Super Bowl is really important for us. We have a number of American football games, and I want it to come here because we want American sports fans in Europe to come to London to watch them, not just go to America for obviously one of the biggest sporting spectacles in current sports and all sports really at the moment. How big the Super Bowl is, how many viewers it gets. It is logical that London would want such a massive event to be held there, why their mayor would want all the fans and all the attention to come over to London. They have the facilities, obviously, to host an NFL game. They've hosted numerous ones over the years. Specifically, I want to say London has hosted 36 regular season games since 2007, definitely the most in that time period. So, is this really impossible for it to happen? I would probably incline myself to say, yeah, closer to that, because I feel like the Super Bowl is such a sacred thing for the United States, and just the issues and the hurdles you'd have to jump over are really the time difference and how to schedule around that. London is 5 hours ahead of Eastern time, so it's 8 hours ahead of Pacific time as well. So that would mean that the game in London could have a realistic start of around 9 p.m. for it to make the most sense to start at 4 p.m. over here on the Eastern at the Eastern time zone and at 1 p.m. on the Pacific time zone. So is that something that the United States and people, living in those time zones would really want to see? I think it takes away from it a little bit. Maybe Pacific time when the game is scheduled for 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock over here on the Eastern time zone. Maybe people on the Pacific time could accept it starting at around 4 or around 5 o'clock, but for it to start at 1, I think, again, takes away from some of that attraction from it. You have to get up earlier, see the game at around noon, and it wouldn't really feel like a Super Bowl is what I'm trying to really get at, with it being taken out of the habitual really pattern that it has been following over the last few seasons. Even in the Eastern time, for it to start at 4 p.m., there hasn't been a Super Bowl to start at 4 p.m. since Super Bowl 16 between the 49ers and the Bengals. That was also the highest rated Super Bowl in NFL history, but last year's Super Bowl actually got the most viewers in TV history with 123.4 million views, but only a 42.1 rating compared to the 49.1 rating that Super Bowl 16 had. So, again, that sort of implies that this could work in terms of ratings and having it be one of the higher rated ones. But again, I think it's just too sacred right now to really think about it being a true possibility. But Roger Goodell was also asked about it back at a fan forum in London back in October. And Goodell was asked about the possibility of the Super Bowl maybe being held in London, to which he said, it's not impossible, and it is something that has been discussed before. I think that is not out of the question, but at the end of the day, I think right now our formula will stay the same about playing Super Bowls in cities that have franchises in it, and obviously London doesn't have that, even though they've hosted the Jaguars a number of times, and they're basically the home team for London. They technically don't have a franchise there, and also hosting a Super Bowl does have massive economic benefits for the city that it is hosted in. So obviously the United States, the city in America, would want those benefits there and to benefit off of the game that has been in the United States for really all of its history. To have it in London and give up those benefits, I think wouldn't sit well with some fans. And again, just from the player side and the time and everything, I don't think it would be received well. And you parlay it with all the changes that already all the fans have to sort of accept with the NFL trying to grow more globally, having more international games, different streaming sites. I think it would be too much of a change for fans to really accept. Now, I do know it's not going to happen in 4 years, 3 years, because the Super Bowls already have been planned through 2028. But I don't think fans and just people in general in the United States would be pretty happy about it. But again, I do acknowledge the fact that the NFL isn't really going off of what fans think too much. If it makes sense for them revenue wise and growing the game that much more and, building something off of that, I think they would probably pull the trigger on it. But I don't see it happening probably realistically until after 2030, after some new broadcasting and streaming deals, maybe a new CBA and sort of working through that. Maybe after that you can sort of explore this opportunity. But is it really the best place to have it, in London? I can see it why it would make the most sense. NFL games have been played there the most, but you have other cities out there like France, in Paris, France actually, maybe somewhere in Spain, or maybe the Middle East as well. That's been the host of a lot of massive sporting events, so those could be thrown around maybe a little bit more later when this possibility of hosting a Super Bowl in foreign territory would be something more likely. But for right now, I think it's just being talked about as an idea maybe. Roger Goodell doesn't seem too convinced about it, but it seems anything he says recently about an 18-game regular season or now a Super Bowl being held elsewhere, it seems like these things just tend to eventually happen and gain more traction over the course of time. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but again, going forward, I don't think it will be too soon to really make it something that could legitimately happen in the years to come. And one idea that came across my mind when I was thinking about this, and this idea of growing the game and having the NFL be a true global game, because for right now I think football and the NFL has really been an American sport that people elsewhere look at it and aren't really too familiar with it. Yeah, when it comes to their cities, when it comes to Europe or South America now, yeah, they'll get up for it as something different to go and watch. But truly, I don't think it is a global game. Like, really compared to soccer would be the best example. And if you think of some of the biggest sporting events in the world of soccer, you have obviously the World Cup and the Champions League as another one to bring in some examples. The idea of soccer being the global game, the world's game, not just being limited to one country like the United States is with football, I think that's the difference in how big soccer is and how big football is in terms of the world viewing it and how much people all over the world tune into these games. Because the Super Bowl, I guess you could sort of compare it to the World Cup and even so to the Champions League a little bit, and the finals, the Super Bowls of these competitions, so to say, are held in various different locations across the world, or at least across Europe, and across Europe, or just across the world also with the World Cup. World Cup's been held in Brazil, also in Mexico, the United States, in some European cities as well, and some European countries as well. So that really gets to travel all over the world and bring its notoriety and popularity to these different areas across the map, whereas the Super Bowl and American football isn't really that diverse because their main attraction, their main World Cup or their main Champions League finals always held just within their country, and you can have a lot of fans from across the globe come and try to learn more about the sport if you just keep it towards the United States. So if the NFL really wants to make this a global game and really grow it to the level of soccer with some of these major events that are going on with the Champions League and even the World Cup, I think they're going to have to go this route and maybe host a Super Bowl in different countries. But it is just a game of give or take, really, because you don't want to lose the home fans as well and have them think that it's all about money with the Super Bowl or with the NFL. You want to still keep them engaged and want them to still be loyal to the game, but also it is something that does come across the mind of the NFL and really making this a world sport compared to soccer and some of the other sports. I guess tennis you could throw out there as well, and some of these other global sports that come to different countries. The NFL is definitely capable and it is massive enough to do that, but so far they haven't really shown it by keeping the Super Bowl to the domestic territories in their own cities. It will be something to watch as well going forward, but again, probably not something that'll happen relatively soon, but it is fun to think about where it could happen, and I would probably guess London would be the first one, and if it goes well, maybe we could explore other places, but right now, the NFL is in that experimental phase of trying different cities out, seeing if they could hold an NFL game in an NFL capacity crowd. It is going well so far, but again, nothing too concrete as we sit here and talk about it. But that'll do it for that segment and this topic. We're going to go into another quick break, and when we return, two more stories to talk about. The post June 1st designation salary boost, those are coming in to a couple of teams around the NFL. I'll tell you if they got a boost and who they benefited off after the release of some of these players. And also the idea of the New York Giants and their head coach Brian Daboll. He was hired as a play caller from the Buffalo Bills. Hasn't really done that so far with the Giants. Is it now the time to do that with maybe his job being at stake in 2024? Stick around to talk about those topics after the break. We'll be right back.